So today, class, we're going to learn about why it's bad to have double standards. I thought about this subject for a while, and no matter how I presented it, it sounded condescending because it's so elementary to not have double standards. You ask a random person on the street, hey, should you have double standards for this group of people versus this group of people? And the odds are, I'm like, nah, man, that's bad. That's unfair. It's not logical, whatever. You know, and it's just like, okay, how many times do I say it in my video? How many times do I say, okay, and one, like, certain phrases I repeat a lot throughout my videos in order to get through things, because everything's unscripted. This is just me, I have a subject I want to talk about and I just go. So, okay, that was a long tangent. Anyways, back to the topic. Double standards usually involves invoking the phrase, the end justifies the means, because people have this double standard about something. Sometimes they know exactly what they're doing, and they don't care. And their excuse is, well, the end justifies the means. I'm doing this for a good reason. The end result is good, therefore it's okay to have this double standard, which normally is bad, but it's okay when I do it. Or sometimes they don't realize that they have a double standard because they don't think about it, because they're apathetic or retarded, or they don't have to be so concerned about this issue because it doesn't affect them that much that they don't learn about it. So they honestly don't realize that they're applying a double standard to whatever subject we're talking about. And then you call them out on it in like a defensive reflex. They say, well, I mean, I didn't mean to do that, but people's apathy on issues and on how their government operates, specifically the US, because it's the most powerful government and controls so much more of the world, on what happens on the world stage. Your apathy is allowing all of these bad things you see in the world to happen. Okay, now let's get to the specifics. Okay, so we'll call double standards and call out people who say and justify the means. So the specific story that happened in the media that let me talk about the subject today, because I always want to talk about it specifically today, is that Google is going to limit search results and omit search results on Russia Today, which is the state media from Russia. Let's go through some things real quick. Russia Today is absolutely a propaganda machine by the Russian government. Just like CNN is a propaganda machine for the American government. Just like Fox News is a propaganda machine for the U.S. government when it's led by conservatives, CNN when it's a liberal running it, whatever. You know, every single country has its media propaganda machine. Okay, it's a sad state of affairs. You know, I wish they didn't, because I hate people lying and their lies cause so much suffering around the world. But, you know, this isn't fantasy world. We have to live in the world we live in. You have to deal with it. So, absolutely, a lot of the stories that Russia Today publishes is complete BS. Completely one-sided, always making the U.S. look bad, always making Russia look good and their allies good. Okay, so here's the crux of the issue. While Russia Today is propaganda, is like really annoying, whatever, you can't silence them by omitting them in search results and then like omitting them in YouTube search results because Google owns YouTube too, just because you think they're wrong. Because you're not applying the logic of, oh, well, they're propaganda, so we're going to silence them. You're not applying that evenly to every single other media organization that does the exact same thing. So I would be fine if you did that to Russia Today and then did it to CNN, Fox News, ABC, MSNBC, Breitbart, InfoWars, Fox News, because they're all bullshit. Now, when I say all bullshit, I mean not every single article they publish is incorrect. No media outlet is 100% wrong every single time. There are some good articles from every now and then from every single news organization that are completely correct. What I mean is, overall, their stuff is bullshit, which is almost all of media organizations. That's why I don't pay attention to mainstream media at all, except to make fun of it, like right now. You know, so I have no problem if you think that that is okay to do that to propaganda. But you're not applying it evenly. You're applying it to propaganda that's against you. That's against your narrative, that's against your worldview, and against your political aim in the world. Well, the problem is when you do that, then every single other country can take a look at it. It's like Russia can look at it and say, okay, well, you're silencing our propaganda machine, so we're going to silence CNN and Fox News in our country too. And then you start off a chain reaction of every single country blocking news media from countries that they don't like or that they are, you know, in conflict, not really in conflict, but like in competition with in certain areas, like Iran and Saudi Arabia are kind of vying for control of the Middle East, for example, but not actually fighting each other head to head. And then you get the state of affairs that heavily, how do I explain this? Freedom of the press is a very important right that every single press media organization has, no matter how retarded they are, what country they come from, whatever. When you start off this chain reaction of everyone saying, well, since they're doing it, we're going to do it too, in regards to silencing propaganda machines, which propaganda is very subjective. I mean, you can call anything propaganda because, oh, they're making up shit, you know? Just like, oh, well, I know you think they are because they're really annoying because of pointing out how fucking stupid you are. So you just call it propaganda, and then it's like, oh, that's it, you know, propaganda. So just don't listen to it. It's not valid criticism at all. With every country doing this, then the freedom of the press is not very free. And that's why the freedom of the press, year after year, is going down. I'll leave a link to that. Actually, hopefully I'll remember to write that down. I think it's Amnesty International, maybe it's Freedom House, does that the last couple of years. The freedom of the press across the world has gone down because countries are continuing to do this. They see the U.S., the world leader, the most powerful country in the world, they see them doing this. So it's like, okay, well, they can do it, so I guess we can do it too. Now, Americans will counter with, well, that's American exceptionalism. We're allowed to do it because we're just so fucking great. Everyone else, no, you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do the same things that we do. That's subject for another time. Okay, Robert, so you can't silence Russia today, even though they're mostly bullshit. Mostly bullshit is the most important part. There are some videos I've seen of Russia today that criticize like American war in Iraq, for example, or certain policies of American foreign policy that are spot on. With most media, they are okay in criticizing other countries' actions. Like, they legit do it right. They point out the logical fallacies, how people just blunder into things, and then the unintended consequences, whatever. They did this specifically in the American war in Iraq, as in most videos I watched that they did. But they do in other subjects too, like the war in Afghanistan, whatever. Like I said before, no news media is 100% wrong every single time. Even though Russia today is mostly wrong on their stupid bullshit that they say, every once in a while, usually when they critique other countries and doing things, they are 100% correct in their analysis. Now, they are not truthful at all when it comes to criticizing Russia. They never criticize Russia for doing anything wrong. Russia is this holy angel that literally does nothing wrong. Just never in the history of the universe, never does anything wrong. If you watch their videos, that's the narrative that they're pushing. Why? Because they're state propaganda. That's why CNN, when a liberal is a president, like, when will CNN ever criticize, I don't know, Obama's push on the war on drugs, for example? They will never. You can look through 8 years of CNN videos, you will never ever see anything do that. CNN may have people on their show that do that, but their narrative that they're pushing, the 24 hours news cycle, this bullshit, you will never see that narrative being pushed. Same thing with Russia Today. Russia Today is like CNN, which is like Fox News, which is like fucking, I don't know, like The Guardian for Britain, for example. You know, each country has their stupid fucking bullshit. Okay, so how does this tie in with the principle of not the ends justifying the means? So people will justify this clamping down on freedom of the press on Russia Today by saying, well, they're state propaganda. They're spreading lies. They are creating division in the American population. They helped install Trump because they were pro-Trump during the campaign, whatever. So even though this action in principle, we know is wrong because we say that everyone has freedom of press in the Constitution. And the Constitution, just because you're not American suddenly doesn't mean that you don't have these rights. I mean, it's just, an American has the freedom to defend himself, but a person from Mali, for example, doesn't, so bam, he's dead. Oh, didn't do anything wrong. You know, these rights of the Constitution presses are good rights for everyone to have. They make logical sense, and which is why libertarians believe that everyone has these rights regardless of nationality, race, creed, gender, whatever. That's the logic I'm going on this. So Americans will usually justify their illegal behavior, their terroristic behavior, their whatever bad word you want to say, all the horrible shit that America does, they will justify it. Will say, well, it's kind of bad. I know it's bad. I feel really sorry for it. But it's for a good cause. If we keep on doing this, the end result is very good. So therefore, it's okay to do it. And it's just like, that is how every terrorist justifies their terrorist attacks. You sound just like a terrorist when you say that, because you just said by doing something wrong is okay if the end result is something good. Well, that means you can justify anything. I mean, that's how Osama bin Laden justified flying a plane to the World Trade Center. He said, like, I know this action is very bad, kills a lot of people that literally have nothing to do with the war I have with America, but the end result of getting America out of the Middle East, out of Palestine, whatever, of all the justifications that he publicly announced of why he did it, the end justifies the means. He was okay with doing it. That's why he gave the order. You know, it's shit like that. It's just like, it's a slippery slope. That's how every dictator justifies their bad behavior. Their mass slaughter of civilians. Well, it's for a good cause. The end result, whatever Hitler or Stalin or Mao or Mussolini were asking for. That's why you can't use that logic in anything. That's why you have principles that you cannot break no matter what. For example, you can't give money to terrorist organizations. Well, it's like, well, this terrorist organization is fighting this other terrorist organization we don't like, so therefore it's okay to give them money and arms and training, whatever. It's like, no, you have a principle that you don't give money to terrorists, you don't give support to terrorists, and you enforce that throughout all of your foreign policy and how your government operates 100% of the time, no matter what, and you never compromise. That is how you hold a principle firm. That is what I would rather the U.S. government do than say, well, we're going to silence some propaganda machines that we don't like, that like make us look bad when they criticize us, you know. Or if you still believe the whole Trump is a Russian plant thing, and let's not even get into that. I would rather them say, okay, Russia today is mostly full of bullshit. Let them say whatever they want to say about us, and we will counter them, like in a forum or a public debate, or a news conference, or whatever you have. Excuse me. It will make them look like fools. If it's really propaganda like you say it is, if it's really just complete bullshit and anti-American just blabble, then you should easily counter it, right? If it's so easy to counter, then why don't you do it? There's one of two things. One, it's one of Russia Today's rare videos where they're actually correct and they're actually like legit criticism and the U.S. can't refute it, that's why they call it propaganda. Or if it is actually Russian propaganda, then refute it. That is the libertarian principle of having open ideas, that everyone has a freedom of speech, no matter how stupid you may think it is, because you don't want someone else calling your speech stupid and have it limited because, well, they think it's stupid. Okay, and that matters because I think they're stupid too, so are you going to limit them? No, we agree with them, it's okay. No, just you is limited. You see why this is a bad idea. I know I sound really condescending in these videos, like really snarky and sarcastic. That isn't to the audience that listens to these videos. Usually my audience knows what's up, and that's why they watch my videos in the first place. What I'm talking about is the 97% Americans who didn't vote Libertarian, who are still voting for politicians in the parties that are applying these double standards, that think it's okay to do horrible things as long as the end justify the means. Those are the people I'm being snarky towards, okay? Not the people directly watching this video. I guess some of them do watch this video, but the majority of my audience are not the 97% who are completely dumb in supporting parties and politicians that are horrible for not only the world, but us too. Just want to make that clear. So in conclusion, no, the U.S. should not, the U.S. can tell Google what to do, should not limit search results based on whether you don't like them or not. Because then we end up like in 1984, where the only information that's being presented to the world is the information that you like. Well, let's say every other country does that too. That's how we end up with brainwashed people in North Korea, for example, who believe that North Korea is like this last bastion of freedom fighting against the U.S., you know, who is trying to enslave them, and that like North Koreans regularly kill American soldiers and win huge victories on the battlefield, you know, and they believe a reality that legit doesn't exist because the only information they get is the one that North Korea deems is not propaganda. You see how this is a slippery slope. So this is where we are with America doing this Russia Today. If you keep on doing this and every other country follows suit, we end up to the extreme of North Korea brainwashing its citizens and they believe reality doesn't exist. Well, Americans already believe reality doesn't exist, but that's, again, another topic for another time. But you get my point. You see why I have a problem with these things happening, because they lead to bigger problems. At the end of the day, Google limiting one news media's ability to be found in search results is not that big of a deal. It doesn't affect your daily life from day to day. But the principle of it is important. You cannot allow people who say, to simply say the speech that they don't like is propaganda, and therefore we should limit it. Because that same logic can be used against you in the future. And you cannot allow people to justify illegal, murderous, horrible, despicable behavior that kills and maims people, makes people's lives a living hell. You cannot allow people to justify that by saying, well, the ends justify the means. I'm doing this for a good goal, and the ends, therefore, it's okay. Because that's how terrorism is accepted. That's how like international coups that countries come in, overthrow a democratically elected person and install a puppet government. That's how those actions are justified. This is why this is wrong. This is why I never apply double standards to anything that I do. I have a set of principles that I adhere to. I never break them, no matter how dire the circumstances or how convenient it would be to me, because that's just who I am. And that's what I want other people, including U.S. companies and the U.S. government, to do. But that's wishful thinking. But on principle, that's why I made this video.